What's up, guys? I don't even know if this story will even make most of the national news. If it does, it'll be one or two quick articles and forgotten as quickly as possible. Because God knows that in the next 7 days, there may very well be a black person who suffers a microaggression from a white person, and that'll dominate the headlines for weeks. And, or God forbid, a black thug like one of the thugs who shot 75 people in Chicago alone this weekend. One of those thugs might lose a gunfight to police. And just if one of those killers dies from police hands or a white person, then that's a bigger tragedy, according to black people and according to liberals, than 75 people shot in one weekend, 12 fatally, 40 people shot in just 7 hours late Saturday night, early Sunday morning. Kids, everybody. And this is supposed to be civilization. This is supposed to be in any way comparable to the behavior of non-black Americans. This is supposed to, you want equality, but you don't even oppose this. You don't even protest this. You don't even focus on your own flaws before you try pointing out the flaws of white people. You want to call white people racist. When white people have done nothing but polite and tried to forget all of this every single week, white people just forget it, or they don't even hear about it in the weekend, and they don't want to know about it. They don't want to know that the standard of behavior among most black people in this country is anything but equal with the standards of behavior of white people or Asians or anybody else non-black. And so the only thing that can stop this one-sided race war that blacks and their allies are waging against white people is to continue pointing this stuff out. Any black person who's considering pretending that they have the moral high ground and that white people are the real problem for blacks, including LeBron James. He's one of them. You think LeBron James is going to talk about 75 people shot, 12 fatally? LeBron James, he chips in a little bit of money to open a public school that's basically just named after LeBron. And even the money that LeBron did pony up, it's from his foundation, and the foundation raises money from other people. So whatever he put up himself is just a tax write-off. But even most of the money that he put up for it is from his foundation, which raises money from other people not worth $500 million like LeBron is. So it's really just a public school with LeBron's name on it, and LeBron bought some frickin' bikes and some helmets. That's ultimately what it comes down to, pretty much. And so LeBron James, living in his white gated community of Brentwood, he just announced that his son is going to the Crossroads School, a private school costing $40,000 a year. But at least it's a short drive from LeBron's house, rather than the Canyon School or whatever it's called. Sierra Canyon School would have been like a 2-3 hour commute for his son. But LeBron's not even putting his son in the rich white public schools. He's going straight to private school. And it would have been nice if he opened a private school for some of these kids in Akron. And it also would have been nice if those spots in that school in Akron were going to kids who showed actual real promise. Because just being disadvantaged and going to this school, you get free tuition to Akron University if you graduate. Well, who's to say that you're even qualified for college? Who's to say that going to college is even anything close to a good decision? Who's to say that that a lot of these guys shouldn't be learning trades? And so, even when people try to help the black community, a lot of it is, here's the University of Akron. And so what is the University of Akron going to be doing? Any kid from the disadvantaged Promises School is going to get free tuition to Akron? Well, how about they qualify for the school first? Doesn't that make sense? just graduating from high school isn't enough to qualify for admission into a university. And what are they going to do with all the unqualified people who they have promises to admit to the University of Akron? Are they just going to major in Ebonics or African studies and become Marxist radicals? And all they can do is recite 10 facts about black oppression, real or imagined, and pretend that they know that black people built America and that it was all black people and that black people are the rightful rulers of America. You know, all they're going to learn is continued victimhood, and they're not going to have any skills for real employment. They're not even going to have skills to be a college professor at an all-black school teaching Marxist propaganda about black victimhood. And, you know, like, LeBron gets all this credit for being so courageous. Who the fuck is talking about the gun violence epidemic? D. Wade's own sister gets shot in Chicago by these same type of thugs. D. Wade makes a documentary about Chicago. It's all about police racially profiling black people. Well, what the fuck do you expect? And why the fuck are you not making a documentary about the thug culture that killed your own damn sister? There's no courage here. This isn't courage. Talking about white people blaming all these black problems, self-inflicted black problems on white people. This is supposed to be courageous? Opening a school that incentivizes every poor kid in Akron to underperform so they can get into the Promises School? You're going to have a whole city underperforming just so they can get into the Promises School, so they get a free bike and helmet and maybe an autograph from LeBron or something like that. Is that really a good deed for the community, to incentivize every poor kid in Akron to underperform in school so they can be one of the lucky ones who gets a free bike? And how many of those free bikes are already stolen? How many are going to be stolen before school even starts? The laptops or the tablets? You know, no one's dealing with the real black issues. Teenage pregnancy, single-parent households, unprotected casual sex, no family planning, no value placed on marriage and stable monogamous relationships, no value placed on present fatherhood. It's all about how many girls you can get pregnant. I see some ladies tonight that should be having my baby. That's black culture, guys. You show you're a black man by being a deadbeat father, by getting a bunch of girls pregnant. That's how you show your masculinity in the black community. In the civilized world, you show your masculinity by raising your own fucking kids and taking responsible for yourself and yours. No personal responsibility in most of the black community. And even with LeBron, we don't see him blaming the right people. And of course, people say LeBron was living in Akron, but he wasn't living in Akron. He was living in some big mansion up here. But anyway, guys. Yeah, a bunch of people dead in Chicago. Let's see who talks about it. Let's see who in the NBA talks about it. Let's see who in the NBA talks about casual, unprotected sex in the black community. Angry, abused, unwanted, neglected kids raised by kids, just like Gloria James was a kid herself raising LeBron James. And we find out that LeBron James, he skipped like 80-something days of school when he was in the 4th grade because his mother went to jail for trespassing and unruly conduct, and he was so embarrassed that he skipped school for half the year. And then these shitty public schools, they still pass LeBron James on to the next year. He missed more than half the year, and they don't even hold him back. And the teacher gives him extra credit at the end of the year to help him pass him through. And he brings the extra credit homework, and his mother does it for him. Anyway, guys, this is so fucked up. I'm beyond sick of this shit. And I don't like being attacked. I don't like white people being attacked for minding their own damn business, going about their lives, and trying to protect their own families from these wild savages who grow up in war zones and who love and embrace those war zones and who blast war zone music in their ears. Toxic, ultra-violent human garbage. And these people want to be treated like equals, and they mostly are treated like equals. And all they can really come up with is microaggressions. Think about it. Just to be woke means you have to be somewhat enlightened just to notice that black people are even oppressed, quote unquote oppressed. If you have to have special enlightenment, if you have to have special wokeness just to notice the oppression, then maybe the oppression isn't even fucking real, right? Anyway, guys, these problems aren't getting solved anytime soon, but I can assure you that whites and all non-blacks and black African immigrants and Caribbean immigrants are getting more and more sick of this shit every single day. And you know, black people talk about black nationalism all the time, and they want safe places for themselves and everything, and they want to commit crimes at 800% of the rate of non-blacks. You want to be black nationalist, black tribalist, and you want to be aggressively anti-white, and yet you don't want segregation? It almost seems like segregation would be an easy solution to all these problems. You wouldn't have white police in your neighborhoods. You wouldn't have white teachers in your neighborhoods. You wouldn't have white people driving through your neighborhoods locking their doors because they don't want to get carjacked, because your rates of carjackings are sky high. What a lot of this human garbage who happens to be black, a lot of them just love living right around white people and then harassing the hell out of them, robbing them, attacking them, even killing them, raping them, but mostly just harassing them, making them feel uncomfortable. Nothing makes a black thug feel more good than scowling and staring menacingly at a white person as they cross by on the sidewalk and making them fear for their lives. They get a sick, twisted, sociopathic thrill out of that. And that's why they wouldn't support segregation, because they would lose out on that thrill. They would lose out on that parasitic existence. And you know, I know there's lots of good black people and they should be able to live anywhere, but at some point, the rest of society should be able to protect themselves, should be able to separate themselves. At what point do you build a fucking wall around the worst parts of Chicago and be done with it? At what point do you call it a reservation? At what point do you give all these people big incentives to live in new projects built by the U.S. in some African country? Everyone gets a flat screen TV, everyone gets a bike, but get the fuck out. Anyway, I'm starting to think that the solution to a lot of American problems is basically enforced assimilation. You either assimilate and you prove you're the basics of American patriotism, you speak some basic semblance of English, you behave at relatively average standards of behavior, or we find some other solution. You can live on a reservation, you can be paid to move, but eventually, guys, something's got to give. Something has got to give. I wouldn't even mind sending the National Guard into Chicago. I would not mind that at all. And because these people, look, think of how many terrorized black victims there are here. Relatively innocent people just being terrorized on a daily basis. But those same terrorized victims, most of them act like white racism is the real problem. Act like a microaggression or one of their terrorists that are terrorizing them losing a gunfight to the cops is a bigger tragedy than all the black people killed by that exact same black thug killer who lost a gunfight. And I know there's police corruption in Chicago. I've seen it with my own eyes. I was hanging out with one of the lost boys of Sudan. All right, there was this genocide in Sudan, and all the boys ran into the jungle or whatever, ran away from the genocide, and a lot of them were brought into the U.S. Okay, Thon Maker from Sudan too. The lost boys of Sudan. I was hanging out with some of them, and one of them was telling me how a cop was giving him a ride somewhere, and then the cops just casually stuck his gun up to the lost boy, his head, and he said, give me $20. And something like that. You know, the cop just robbed him. So I know there's police corruption in Chicago. I know it's an issue, but it comes nowhere close to the issue of this black on black genocide. And that genocide spills out and affects white people too. It affects everybody, Latinos, Asians, everyone gets robbed, everyone lives in fear. And but think about it. If the black standard of behavior improved to relatively normal standards of behavior, like say they only committed violent and property crimes at twice the rate of non-black Americans, that would be a 400% reduction or whatever. That would be a dramatic reduction from the current. And if they became anywhere close to civilized, the good cops could move in. The good people who are cops, it wouldn't be an insufferable job for good cops to patrol these neighborhoods. It wouldn't be close to a death sentence. With these standards of behavior, it's almost a guarantee that the only cops you're going to really attract to that job are crooked cops who are possibly sociopathic. I'm sure there's still a lot of good cops who patrol these areas, but you're going to get those bad cops when your standard of behavior is so uncivilized that no one wants to do those jobs. It's just like the teachers in the schools. You're not going to attract good teachers that actually stay in these schools because they're going to realize it's hopeless, because all these problems start at home with the single mothers and the molestation from the mothers' boyfriends of the kids, and the neglect and abuse from these single mothers who have no self-esteem, in part because they have no man, in part because they have no education, and they take it out on their kids. And then these kids grow up fatherless, abused, neglected by their mothers, angry and ultra-violent, turning to gangs for some sort of male role models, and committing black-on-black genocide, all just being terrorists all around, guys. And no one's talking about that. No one cares. But white people are supposed to feel guilty. The only thing white people should feel guilty about is instituting the welfare state and generational welfare and discouraging black people from their Christian roots. 60 years ago, 80% of blacks were raised in two-family homes. Now it's the exact opposite. Almost 80% raised in single-parent, single-mother, fatherless homes. And that's supposed to be progress. Anyway, guys, I'll put this on my other channel. I'll see